Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views here on Salam Media with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. It's 3 minutes past 9, and we're going to be going to our weekly Jummah inspirations. Today we are joined by Moulana Ismail Amod from the Jamiatul Ulama KZN. Walaikum salam, Moulana. Thank you so much for joining us.
Assalamu alaikum. Alhamdulillah, Jazakallah for giving me the opportunity.
Jazakallah so much for joining us on Jummah Inspirations. Bismillah, the floor is yours.
نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فلما أسلم وتله للجبين وناديناه أي يا إبراهيم قد صدقت الرؤيا إنا كذلك نجزي المحسنين إن هذا لهو البلاء المبين صدق الله العظيم. As Muslims, sometimes in this world, when we haven't studied the religion of Islam and we haven't understood the wisdoms behind the laws and the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what happens is this religion becomes soulless. This religion becomes ritualistic, that we just do the acts of worship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do and Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has commanded us to do. But we do it without any soul. We do it without any feeling. And we do it without any spirituality. We just go through the motions. So you see that the person basically, he comes to pray his salah, but he's not even understanding the wisdom of salah. He doesn't even understand why am I praying salah every day. So he comes and he stands on the musalla and his mind is somewhere else. And he prays his salah with his mind totally occupied with maybe some business or some other problem of his. His mind is not in that salah. He's rushing through that salah. He's just getting through it. He comes in last minute, leaves first minute, and he basically considers that salah as a burden. This is because as Muslims we have not understood what is the purpose of these ibadat, these acts of worship that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. That salah basically is to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us 5 times a day to leave this dunya. Even if a person is busy in his shop or busy in his business or busy with his wife and children, busy with the family, busy is sleeping at that time, or whatever acts of this dunya he is doing at that time, the person must leave all that and he must come and stand in front of his Creator. Allah is calling us, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala falah. Come to salah, come to success. That your success in this world is based on your 5 times a day salah. Not your success is based on your bank balance. I have R1 million, I have R1 billion, I have 10 million, I have a massive house, I have a big car, I have a fancy business, I have wife, I have children, I have spouse, I have this, I have that. All these things, materialistic things of this dunya, we base our success on that. We measure our success on that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Hayya ala al-falah. Success is on the musalla. Success is when you read your 5 times a day salah. You can be having R1 billion in your bank account, but if you are not reading your 5 times a day salah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that you are not successful, you are unsuccessful. This is one of the wisdoms of salah, that the salah is basically a connection between the slave and his creator, between the creation and the creator. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to connect. Allah loves us. Allah wants us to connect to him 5 times a day. We have just come out of the month of Ramadan, and we have fasted in this month of Ramadan. What was the purpose of the month? What was the purpose of this fasting in this month of Ramadan? Was it just to stay away from food and drink? We just 1 month Muslims, that in the month of Ramadan we just abstain from food and drink, and we take out our Quran a little bit and we pray a little bit extra, and you'll see the men will start now growing the beards, and the women will start covering themselves. They'll wear their hijab. Hijab does not mean the headscarf. This is a massive misconception that unfortunately the basic modern woman have now totally misunderstood this whole concept of hijab, that hijab means the headscarf. I've just put a piece of cloth over my head, and that is a scarf. But the shape of my entire body can be seen. I'm wearing a tight pants and a top, and it's very attractive, and men are getting attracted to me, and I put full makeup on, and I put perfume on, and left the house, and I'm wearing a bright, fancy colored scarf, and this is my hijab. I'm practicing on Islam. No. Basically, my sister, you haven't understood What is the meaning of hijab? Hijab means the woman's entire body has to be covered, except the face, according to some ulama. She must not be wearing fancy, attractive clothing where she's attracting men to her, wearing makeup and she's wearing perfume and she's leaving the house and then she thinks that I'm wearing hijab. No, hijab means covering. You must be covered up, you must be concealed. So you'll see in this month of Ramadan, the woman will start covering herself up a little bit, the men will start growing the beard, and they will start, dressing up a little bit. Will come, the masjids will be a little bit full, and you'll see people trying to practice a little bit on Islam. But as soon as the Eid moon is sighted, then we go back to our old ways. We've forgotten, the masjids are now empty again, the Quran is put back on the shelf. This is because you haven't understood what was the purpose of fasting. The purpose of fasting was not to abstain from food and drink. The purpose and the wisdom behind this fasting is not just a ritual, it's not just a adat, a habit. Every year we just come and we wake up for sehri and then we have a fancy iftar party and then we just stay away from a little bit of food and drink and our life is the same, nothing changes. No, the purpose of fasting was to train your nafs and desires, was to train your passions, to abstain from the wrong, to abstain from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to abstain from sins. This was the purpose of fasting. You are supposed to, when you are abstaining from that food and drink every day in the month of Ramadan, you are training the nafs. The nafs is going through a training. It is teaching your nafs self-restraint. It is teaching your nafs discipline. It is teaching your nafs and your desires and your passions abstinence. Abstain from the haram of this world. Abstain from those things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not allowed us to do in this world. This is the purpose of fasting. When you finish the month of Ramadan, you have to be a better Muslim. Your life has to change. You have to make out this person is now a better Muslim. He came out of the month of Ramadan. For 30 days, he trained his nafs. He taught his nafs self-discipline. He taught the nafs restraint. He taught the nafs abstinence. He taught the nafs humility. He taught the nafs empathy, compassion, humility. He taught the nafs all these things. You have to make out the difference. But you see that the person, because he hasn't understood why he was fasting, he's just doing it as a soulless ritual. He comes out of the month of Ramadan and he's worse sometimes, or he's the same as he was before the month of Ramadan. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam has cursed that type of person. And the month of Ramadan comes in and the month of Ramadan goes out and he does not change his life. He's not forgiven. Everything is still the same in his life. This is because we don't understand why. We haven't understood the wisdom behind the commands of Allah. We haven't studied Islam. We are experts of the dunya. We have high degrees, secular degrees from secular universities. We have PhDs and we have all these fancy secular degrees from the universities, but we haven't even recognized our own creator. We don't even know what is the meaning of Islam, why we are Muslims, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. We haven't studied Allah and the Akhirat. We haven't studied Islam. We've only studied the dunya. We're the experts of the dunya. The kafir is the expert of the dunya. We have to be the experts of the Akhirat. Coming to my last part, which is Qurbani. We are now going into the season of Hajj and Qurbani. I'm not going to speak on the topic of Hajj. It is a very long topic. I don't have enough time. I'm just going to touch on Qurbani before the end. What is the purpose of Qurbani? Is the purpose of Qurbani that we just go, we find one sheep and we find a goat or a lamb or some bull or some cow and we cut it and we have a fancy big braai and we get our family together and we eat and we drink and we go back home? Is this what Qurbani is all about? Is this what this Eid al-Adha that we are coming to today? No, it doesn't mean that. Let me explain to you what is the purpose of Qurbani. What is the wisdom behind this Qurbani that we go to? It's not just a ritual. It's not just a soulless ritual. The purpose and the wisdom behind Qurbani, first of all, Qurbani means sacrifice. Qurbani means to become close. Qurb. It comes from the word qurb, to become close to someone. And how do you become close? Who are we wanting to become close to? We want to become close to our Creator. We are the creation. We want to become close to Allah. We want to become close to the Creator. And we have to offer acts of sacrifice, acts of obedience, acts of worship to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is one of the lessons of Qurbani, is sacrifice, and it also, the main lesson of Qurbani is submission. The entire life of Ibrahim alayhi salam was the life of submission. In this life of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the glaring lesson that comes out from the life of Ibrahim alayhi salam that me and you have to do, which is why we are doing this Qurbani every year, is that when you take the knife and you put the knife on the throat of the animal, in reality, you are taking the knife and you are putting the knife on your desires, your nafs and your desires and your passions. I want this. I like this. This is the way I want to dress up. This is my feeling. This is my opinion. This is what I want to do. All this I, you have to take all this I and you have to throw it away. What I want, what I love, what I desire, what is my opinion, what I feel, all these things, throw it away. And what you need to do is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, what Allah loves, what Allah wants us to do, what is Allah likes, what is the desires of Allah, what is the opinions of what Allah wants us to do. This is what we have to do. This is the lesson of Qurbani. Ibrahim alayhi salam loved his son. He loved Ismail alayhi salam. He loved his father. When he grew up, and his father Azar was actually building those idols, and he was selling those idols and worshipping those idols. Every person loves his father, but Ibrahim alayhi salam showed us the lesson that I love Allah more than my own father and mother also. So sometimes our parents will tell us to do the wrong things. We'll have to go against our parents, and because we have to prefer Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over our own parents. Ibrahim alayhi salam loved his wife and he loved his children, but he had to leave them in the desert of Makkah, and he had to go away. And finally, the final test of Ibrahim alayhi salam, he had to take the knife and put it on the son of Ismail, on the throat of Ismail alayhi salam, his beloved son. And he loved his son, but he taught us that I love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala much more than I love my son. So this is the lesson of Qurbani. In conclusion, the lesson of Qurbani is submission and sacrifice. Submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the meaning of Islam, that we take our nafs and our desires and our passions and we submit it to the will that Allah, whatever you want, I will do it. Whatever I want is not important. What I want to, how I want to dress, how I want to live my life, how I want to do business, how I want to have my weddings, and how I want to conduct my life, I will throw all that away. And I will make what you want, I will make that the focus of my life. Whatever you want, whatever pleases you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is what I want. We have to make what Allah wants, what we want. Instead, nowadays, what we do, we follow our passions and our desires, and we leave and we take the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the way of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we throw it away, and we put what we want in the front. This lesson of Qurbani and this Qurbani that comes every year, Eid al-Adha, is to teach us that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, put that in the front. What we want, put that in the back, and practice only on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. Submit and do the sacrifice, acts of sacrifice and acts of worship for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this will get us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it will solve the problems of the people worldwide. We can see the blood of the Muslims is flowing freely, like how the blood of the animals will be flowing on the day of Qurbani. The blood of the Muslims is flowing freely in Gaza and all other places of the world. The reason for this is that we have preferred the dunya over the akhirat. We have preferred what we want over what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants. So let us, inshallah, this year, the Qurbani, when we are putting the knife on that animal's throat, let us put the knives on our nafs and our desires and our passions. Let us give up all that and say, Allah, whatever you want, we will do that happily for you. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.
Ameen. Jazakallah so much, Moulana Ismail Amod, for this week's Jummah inspirations. And really appreciate you giving us your time. Assalamu alaikum.
Shukran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Very, very powerful and impactful Jummah inspiration edition there given by Moulana Ismail Amod from the Jamiatul Ulama KZN. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be having the news with Sai Jedward. And after that, we'll be discussing Africa Day and how Africa's role evolved in recent times, especially in the sphere of geopolitics. Are we louder than previously? And we'll be speaking to Matsiri, so a master's graduate at Institute for Pan-African Thought and Conversation at the University of Johannesburg after this.